pleasure, Suhaiba, for joining. All right, for leading life. Kind of reached out and wanted to talk to you really on just leadership, right? And kind of let you share your story. I thought it was very interesting. I thought others can benefit from your story. So without further ado, I would really like for you to just kind of get in, kind of tell us about like your strengths and your journey and your experience so far.
Sure. So, and thank you for having me. It was great to meet you
Yeah.
as well a couple weeks ago. And my leadership journey. So, in the very beginning, I didn't think I was kind of hardwired for leadership based on my personality, a very quiet, introverted, kind of more introspective person. Definitely not the like run in, take charge of the room kind of gal. Um, but through the years, have been kind of pushed out of my comfort zone more and more, which was a good thing and
Yes.
led me to where I am now. So, backstory, I grew up with all brothers. I'm the only girl, three brothers, two older, one younger. So I endured my fair share of torturing and teasing, which toughened me up.
I can imagine.
And
Yeah.
then, um, so far to date, have worked in all male-dominated industries. So I'm from the suburbs of Philadelphia. I'm a big sports fan. Basketball is my favorite sport, which I played middle school, high school, and kind of destroyed my knees in the process. Didn't play in college. I managed the men's basketball team though, and then I went on from there when I came home from school and worked for the 76ers for 5 seasons, which was a really fun
Yes.
time at the height of the Allen Iverson era, and then moved from there into our family business, which is residential painting, which is still pretty male dominated. So all of my leadership has kind of been, I tease and call myself the quiet trailblazer, because, like I said,
Okay.
I'm not storming the castle and like taking
Yeah.
charge. It's kind of okay, what needs to happen here for me to move forward? What needs to happen for the company to move forward, for the team to move forward, for the customers to get what they need? So I'm one of those observe and then kind of come up with a strategy and go kind of slow and steady wins the race. I'm the turtle, not the hare. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's led me to here. And I am now not ashamed to say I'm 46 years old. My daughter is 19. She's a sophomore in college. As you can see from all the books behind me, reading and writing have been a big part of my life, and just published my first book, which is actually on leadership for women. And it's kind of a reflection back over my life and all the lessons I've learned in the years so far and how they've really helped me get to where I am now and prepared me for what at the time I didn't see coming in terms of what my career path was going to be, and just kind of
Mhm.
continuing to be surrounded by, guys and men for the bulk of my career to date.
And do you feel like that has led you, or I mean, has prepared you? I guess like having that
Definitely
upbringing,
tougher than
having
most.
yeah, yeah. I was
Yeah,
gonna
I
say,
would say. We tease from being from Philly, which is kind of known for being a tough town to begin with. And then, like I said, growing up with three brothers and playing all sports my whole entire life. It's interesting. A lot of times it doesn't even occur to me. So, like, I have a networking group
oh
I'm still
wow,
a part of now where I'm the only woman in the
mm,
room, but I just sit down, I chime in, and it doesn't phase me very much. But
okay,
again, with raising a daughter now and like the state of the world, just wanting her to be more prepared to
yeah,
kind of stand tall and strong and take up space a little sooner and at a little younger of an age than I did. Because there was a time when I was quiet when I shouldn't have been, or I was kind of
yeah.
reluctant to like jump right into the middle of all of it. So just trying
That's
to,
that.
like I said, it's use that X factor to my advantage and not as a
Yeah,
disadvantage.
that's interesting because I have a so I have a belief that everyone has like one. I guess you can call it your God given strength, right? Something that you do without you ever really noticing it, but it's your strength. So I'll give you an example. For me, and it took me a while to understand this about myself, but when I like dug deep and stuff, I finally figured out my true strength. And it was completely different from what I thought it was because I'm a highly competitive person, and I thought that was
Mhm.
my strength. Especially coming up like when I first joined the military, I thought like, oh yeah, this is gonna serve me great, and yes, I'm gonna be highly competitive, and I'm gonna achieve all these things and everything. I did get, I did achieve a lot, and I did a lot, and I tried a lot. But at the end of it, once I reflected, I realized that my strength was actually just my curiosity. It was just me being
Gotcha.
curious about different things that I wanted to explore and try, and different people I wanted to talk to and stuff like that. And so I guess with that, I wanted to ask you, like, what do you think your strength is, or your true strength, in that sense of, with your upbringing and where you are now? What would you classify that as?
I would say probably my favorite thing to be is helpful. And so that's
Oh,
what I think comes through with regards to I'm really good with systems and processes, which is definitely a gift that I didn't realize I had until probably, 5 or 6 years ago. It didn't occur to me that everybody's brain doesn't work like that. So, like,
it's
for me, the
crazy,
world
right?
is one big, yeah, the world is one big puzzle to be solved for me.
Yeah.
But as far as, like, a strength, I think, well, one, I tease my mom would say that, like, she always teased me when I was little, I'm a Taurus. So she would tell me, "Don't
Okay.
instead of being stubborn, turn your stubbornness into determination." So I'm really like if I set a goal, I'm getting to that finish line one way or the other. Um, but the thing that kind of, I think, brings me the most joy and that
Ooh, okay.
I really love to do is to be helpful. So if I know something that's helpful to you and I can share it with you, that's going to make me happy. I'm also good at connecting the dots and in a
Okay.
way that most people wouldn't. So like two totally like random things and you bring them together and you kind of repurpose them and then connect them in a way that makes sense on a different level, which I
Yeah.
think comes through a lot of my writing as well. So, like, I'll see something, or you and I will talk about something today, and 2 days from now, something else will happen, and it'll all like I said, my brain just thinks the world is a
The
puzzle,
dots
and
got
it'll
connected.
like put all those pieces together, connect those dots, and kind of come up with something a little new or different, or what would could be considered probably a little out of the box, kind of in a thinking style.
Yeah. And that's so funny that you mentioned that, because I guess I've had that experience as well too, where I was like, man, people don't see that. And like, I work in distribution and like operations management, so it's always about like efficiencies and stuff like that.
Right.
And it always comes back to like, I've had so many of these experiences where it's just I'm talking to somebody and I'm just like, oh, but you don't see that person. Like, so if that person wasn't putting down, like, I know this is going to be way over dramatic, but I really had this experience where it was like, well, if that person wasn't putting down their pen all the time, they would be able to keep going with the checklist,
There you
right?
go.
Or if that
Well,
it
the other
was, it
thing
was
too,
as
yeah,
simple as, or if
yeah.
that person wasn't clicking their pen off every time they had to write. And I know that that's a very extreme example, but it got me to the point where I was like, wow, people don't really see certain things like that. And that's where it kind of piqued my curiosity, in a sense, to like try finding other people's true strength, right? Like, it really, I have I have somebody I work with now. They're just incredible with like data. They're very data driven. Like, you can give this person just random numbers and, hey, I need you to export this, and like make all these numbers just make sense somehow. And he can do it.
Mm.
He can do it. You give that same thing to me and I'm like, what are you what are you talking
Aw.
about, right? But he can do it and stuff, and it kind of, it really helps me kind of, with my curiosity, like just explore people and like just kind of talk to them in that sense and try finding out what like their true strengths are and stuff. And I guess for me, it was it was really purposeful for me in the military, because it was satisfying. It like, it was satisfying that curiosity in the military. Even if you pick the job, like, you can still explore, talk to other people. Of course, you're meeting all different types of people in different jobs and stuff like that, and it really satisfied me. So even when I got out, I went into operations because I felt like it was almost the same thing. I was meeting
Mm.
leaders from many different areas, a bunch of people that work for companies and stuff, and kind of that was like, that was what piqued my interest, is just talking to them, seeing how their minds work and stuff like that. And so it really satisfied me in that sense. And now I'm more on the I guess more on a passionate side. So it's kind of a question of that I wanted to ask you because now I'm kind of trying to pivot to like following my passions where it's kind of talking to more people, helping more people and stuff like that. And I wanted to ask you the same. Do you feel like your life right now or your journey right now is going through is either passion driven or purpose driven?
I think, and I'm going to go back real quick on your strengths thing. If you're not sure what your
Okay.
strength is, ask somebody close to you because it's easier for an outsider to see it sometimes because it's just, it comes so naturally to you. It doesn't occur to you that, oh, nobody else does this the way I do it or, is good as good as this.
Yeah,
It's funny, I
that's a
did an
great tip.
assessment and I tested, I think, I can't remember what it wa time and productivity management. So I tested in the 98th percentile, and so the guy that's doing my assessment, he's like, "So do you know what that means?" I'm like, "Yeah, it means I'm pretty good at managing my time and my to-do list." He's like, "No, it means that only 2% of the population is better than you at managing your time and your to-do list." So asking someone else really helps sometimes because for us, I'm like, I've always been good with, I'm
Yeah,
never
yeah,
missing a deadline, I'm getting my stuff done. So to me, it doesn't feel like a strength, but someone on the outside might be able to give you a little help with that. I think for me, at the start of something, the passion has to be there, but I think purpose is what
yeah.
gets you to the end.
Ooh,
So things can get, like I said, you could be really excited at the beginning about an idea. And then we were talking earlier about books, and you're working on a book and getting through my book. It's a longer process than you think, and you're going to lose that spark at some point. But if you know that
yeah.
the purpose of getting to the end is, that I think is what helps you kind of stay on the journey and finish it. So
Okay.
I think you do. It's funny because I kind of phrase it a little bit differently. I always tell people follow the energy. So you could be
Nice.
drained at the end of the day, but it could be a good kind of tired because you've had a really like you used your purpose and you were passionate about what you did, or you could be drained at the end of the day because you're in the wrong place and it's just sucking the life out of you. So I always talk about,
Yeah.
just paying attention to your energy and if it's a good tired or a bad tired at the end of the day. So I think, yeah, for me, it starts with passion and then the purpose is what gets me to the end of the journey.
Gets you there. And
Yeah.
that's interesting because you said something earlier about like you're very like you're very disciplined to hit a goal. And I've had this conversation with people before of and I don't think there's a right or wrong answer for it. I just like to hear what people's answers are. So I try asking everybody that I can, right? What is more important, the process or the goal?
So you know what, I'm going to give you a little hint too, though, that my answers are like kind of like half and half. I am whole brained, which I didn't know was a thing when I took the test, the right left brain test. And I literally split down the middle, and my girlfriend was sitting next to me, and she's like, I think I'm broken. Because she split right down the middle too. So for me, it starts with a goal, but I love systems and processes. So having actual actionable steps to get to the goal. Again, and you brought up a word discipline. So I think discipline is
Yeah.
at the start of it my and like the guys and gals that I work with in my consulting business, like, I hate to tell you, there is a secret to success, but you're not gonna like the answer, and the answer is consistency. So that's
Yeah.
what really is the thing. So you set the goal, and again, kind of like passion and purpose. Like it's fun at the beginning, and then
Yeah.
you hit the first wall, and you're like, "Ugh, do I really want that or not?" And that's where, for me at least, I'll set a goal and kind of reverse engineer what are the things I need to do to get there, and how can I
Yeah.
break it down into smaller chunks and make it more manageable? Because everything otherwise feels like, you know, it's never going to happen. It's too big of a dream. And
Yeah.
they always tease, like, it should be big, it should be a little scary. But I am
Yeah.
definitely, actually, my LinkedIn profile, it says process specialist. So I love a good checklist.
Nice.
I love
Okay.
something
Okay.
that's repeatable, so that if I'm going to do something again, I'm not starting from scratch. I'm going to use the process
Yeah.
and kind of repeat the process and refine it to make it easier and better. One of the other things I always do, I think, when something new comes up or an issue happens, I feel like we get overwhelmed and you're like thinking all of these, how am I going to solve this problem? And I always remind myself to go back to like, what's the simplest solution? Because I think
Yes.
sometimes we go straight to a complicated solution.
Yeah.
And if you kind of take a deep breath and pause, you can figure out a more simple way sometimes to accomplish something. So I am definitely
I,
all about goal setting. Um, it's funny too, because on like the right brain, left brain quiz, it asks you about checklists versus post-it notes, and I use both. And so
oh
usually
wow.
you
Okay.
prefer one or the other, but like I literally have my checklist here for what I need to get done today. And I have a post-it note on my wall with my goals for this year. And I've got a couple post-it notes on my
Yeah,
computer for other
yeah. If
reminders.
you
Yeah.
could,
So
if you could see, if you could see my wall right now, so I buy. I'm a visual person, so I need
yes.
to see like
Yeah.
everything, and so I buy the kids poster boards from like arts and crafts, Walmart thing, and I write everything down,
Everything.
and I have it all pinned up all over my wall, like
Yeah.
and yeah, so I that's how I do it. It's interesting to me though, so and like I said, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I feel like the process is pivotal in your journey, right? Like that's how you learn, right?
Mm.
But my argument has always been if you don't hit the goal, then I can't say was it worth it, but that was the intention. And the reason why I say that, and I feel like it's a mental thing. I feel like it's like a mental fortitude kind of thing, right? If I'm setting goals that I never hit, then that I'm setting that expectation for myself.
Right.
And like you said, right, you should aim big. And I completely agree with you because I do the same thing. I set the big goal. I have my 5 year goal written down, right?
Right.
What I consider like a vision, a 5 year vision that I have, right? And then I break it back down. I get my alignment done. Then I got my 1 year goal. Then I break that down into 90 days, 4 90-day quarters, right, in a year. And those are my goals. Those 90-day goals are aligned to my year, right? But that's where I feel like if I don't hit that 90-day goal, I am training my mind that it's okay to not hit it. That I maybe just the way I'm wired, probably. I don't know. Like you like systems. I like the and I'm glad you brought it up because I can get very intense at times where I'm just like go, 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 go kind of thing. And I mean it works for me sometimes, you know.
Right.
But at the same time, I kind of understand both the process and the goal are both important to me. I just steer more towards I want to hit the goal. Like that's what I want to get, you know. So
I
it
think
doesn't
there's
always
two
work that
things
way,
that,
obviously.
yeah,
Yeah.
come to mind. One is you really do have to get crystal clear about what you want
Hmm.
and why you want it. So I think depending on the goal, and actually, this is the very last chapter of my book, which you can go read. So sometimes you set a really big goal and you don't get there exactly the way you thought you would, or um, it doesn't end up finishing off the
Yes.
way you thought it would finish off, or it's late, quote unquote. I think what you said about having like the discipline and the consistency, if you can win today and then you can win the week and you can win the month, and I do that all the time in my consulting. I actually have a game plan course that's about planning ahead for success. So like as of right now, everybody should be prepared, starting to prepare for 2024 and know what your
Yes.
end goal is at the end of 2024, because if you don't know, you're definitely not getting there. And month by month, if you can win each month, should be a lot easier than if you're not paying attention, you're not tracking, you're not making sure you're intentional every month. So I think the
Yeah.
only thing I try to remember is like to give yourself grace along the way, especially if something new that you've never done before, because it is a learning process and something is going to come up
Yes.
that's going to kind of derail you a little bit potentially, or feel like a setback. And being able to, instead of say, oh, you know what, forget it, I'm going to toss that goal out the window and
Yeah.
scrap it. Like, how do I refocus? How do I get into the process a little bit more and figure out what it's really going to take to get there? So again, I think you
Yeah. Definitely.
you need both at some point.
And
But you also have to
I'm
know
glad
what
you.
motivates you, you know? I tease too,
Oh,
so I always tell people, if you're making a checklist, you literally need to have that empty box in front of whatever the item is that you need to do, because that thrill of being able to check it off
check it off.
is half
It's
of
like
the fun, you know?
it's
Or
a what's it
staring
called?
at the empty box and like, "Oh, I really wanna check that off." I'm like, "I can't check it off until I actually do it." So,
Yeah,
yeah, you can't
it's
just
so
make a
funny you
list, you
bring that
gotta
up.
have those boxes.
Yeah, it's so funny you bring that up. The guy that I mentioned at work, he's like that. He's a
Yeah,
checklist guy through and through. Like he gets so happy when he highlights things and he'll like
yeah,
highlight it green and he's like, oh, good, that one's done. And like he just gets an adrenaline kick from it. And
yeah,
for me, and it's funny because I feel like it may be harder or I may be harder on myself for it. I'm glad that you brought up like you really got to understand what you want and why you want it, right?
right,
It took me years to understand that. Like I would set goals and goals and goals, and then I would hit it, and I'm like, man, that didn't really, And my wife jokes to me all the time that she's like, you're just never satisfied,
right,
and that's something that I mean, I'll be completely honest. That's probably something that's just me. Like I am not. I always want more, and I understand that about myself. It took a lot of reflection to understand that about myself, and that it is okay for me to want more. For
mm,
me, it's like, and you had mentioned a little bit of that grace period. I have to forcibly almost do it to myself, where I'm like, you need to calm down,
right,
you need to slow down, and you need to appreciate the now kind of thing, right?
right,
And I do it in my program too. And this is a big part of where I like to work with leaders that are highly motivated, highly intentional, want to hit goals and everything like that. So I can teach them this because it took me years, like I said, to really figure this out and to really like be okay with it. I know it may sound like kind of weird, but like for me to be okay with like me wanting to hit more and more goals,
right,
right? And for the longest time, I really thought like, man, why can't I just be happy? And it was I had an interesting conversation with a friend where we were just talking about, and I don't want this to come sound wrong, but we were mentioning people that have no goals, people that can go to the same job for 30 years or something like that and
right,
just be okay with it. And to me, I'm just like, I can't do that.
right.
Right. And in a weird way, it's like I'm envious of it because what a simple life that would be.
But not very fulfilling.
No,
So, I know I
not
think
for
the
me.
same way a little bit too, is like, I can't imagine not aspiring to want more, you know? But the other thing and the
Yeah.
flip side of the coin and what I'm working on myself as well is, like, taking the time to celebrate the accomplishment. So, for me, once the goal is checked off, I'm like, "Okay, what's the next one?" And it's like, "No, pause, live in it for a moment, enjoy it, celebrate it," you know? That's my challenge right now with the book, and actually that's one of the reasons. So the subtitle is 22 Leadership Lessons for Women on the Rise, because I think we should all continue to be rising. Like, you're never really done your evolution. Um, but at the same time,
Yeah.
and that's the last chapter, and it's the chapter I almost forgot. It's the bonus lesson, which is to celebrate everything and like learn that it is worthy of the small goals are worthy of celebration, the big goals are worthy of celebration, and it shouldn't just be go, go, go. It should be a period of where, at least for a day or 2,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can be like,
Definitely.
"Yes, pat myself on the back. I did that." It was not easy or it was easier than I thought, but I still did it. So I think it's a lot about balance, you know?
Yeah. And I would completely agree. That's a big ask. And I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty sure some people can relate to it out there. I always think of it, and not to try comparing myself or anything like that, but I always think of it like professional athletes, right? Like I look at people like Michael Jordan, like Kobe Bryant, like stuff like that, like athletes that just achieved a lot, and it's interesting to hear their stories because it for me, a pivotal moment is when I don't know if you ever read the book Relentless, but it kind of explained like how Kobe and like Mike were actually thinking.
Mm.
And that was like a pivotal moment in my development where I was like, dude, I'm not crazy. Right. And it was just, I feel like to be a better leader, you have to take the time to explore yourself. Like that's the biggest thing of really understanding yourself. And like you said earlier, knowing why you want to hit those goals, knowing why you want to achieve X, Y, and Z kind of thing, right? That will help you become a better leader, whether it's at work, at home, in life in general, right? So, did you have any kind of like pivotal moment in you that you can say, like, yeah, this changed me?
Not so much so. It's interesting too for the consulting, all of the work that I did. Like I said, it took me a while to realize that was my gift. Although we used to tease when we were younger, growing up, we got to the point where if we were going somewhere like vacation or visit my grandparents, we had a rule where you took your bags and you put them at the back of the car. You didn't put them in because I was in charge of packing because everybody would just like throw their stuff in and it was, you know, I'm like, no, we're going to do
Wow.
this right. So like I was the one that organized everything. I'm like, leave it by the trunk. I'm going to pack it because even now too with my daughter, I tease. I'm like, I want to be able to see out the back window. I don't want you to like throw everything right in the middle and stack it all the way up. And it doesn't need to be that way. I don't want to hear things rolling and shaking for the next 3 hours. So what I do in my consulting world now with systems and processes and helping other, mostly contractors with small business owners, I did for our business first. And then my peers and my friends in the industry, when I kind of told them about it, they're like, no, you need to share that with the rest of us. You can't keep that to yourself. So I never really had the intention of launching my own business. And I always tease that, like I told my coach, my current coach, I've had a lot of coaches over the years, both on and off the court.
Oh wow.
He said, if I ever go into business for myself, I would rather sell a product than service because service is you and it's a little bit harder to kind of scale and grow and manage that. But I went into service, which again goes back to my core of liking to be helpful.
Yeah.
um, and so they really encouraged me to know like the world needs this and you need to share it with the rest of us. And
Yeah.
again, with the book, I finished it. My daughter kind of inspired me to finish it. My mom is like probably the biggest influence in my life. I tease that
Okay.
I feel bad for people that don't have a strong black woman behind them, but it's all good. Hopefully we get somebody in our corner, but there's nothing like having, a strong black mom to support you that's secure in who she is and tells you to, go for it. And then I was
Got
reluctant, like, "Who am I to put this out into the world?" And then I had some pre-readers, and they're like, "Yeah, no, the world needs this right now." So,
yeah.
for me, it's usually, like I said, an outsider that recognizes and then pushes me and says, "No, you need to do this, you need to share this, you need to finish this." Um,
Awesome.
so
Yeah, and I completely agree. I mean, just the couple of times that we've spoken, and I mean, I kind of that's the whole reason why we're here, right? I felt like your story was powerful. I felt like
mm,
your story could help others understand that, especially there might be a little girl right now with four or five brothers that's like, oh, I hate my life. And
mm,
well, you can grow up to achieve more. And it's I always like to think of it in a sense of it's all about perspective, right? You just
mm,
gotta find like how to say the silver lining kind of thing. And I completely agree where you need to share your story. You need to, reach out to more people and,
mm.
get your book out there more and stuff like that. So, and I would like to ask you, I mean, to further viewers as well, like how can people contact you or what's the best way?
So I am on all the social media platforms, so Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram, the Full Circle Business. I'm there, or I think on LinkedIn it's probably under my name, Suhaiba Neill. I have too many accounts, too many places now. Or you could go straight to my website, which is thefullcirclebusiness.net, and you can email me or contact me from there. There's a page there that's dedicated just to the book, and has some cool free resources on there as well, a couple of quizzes. And like I said, for me, when I realized that I was going to be required to step into a leadership role, I wanted to define what that meant for me and what kind of leader I wanted to be. So I did a whole bunch of assessments to kind of get a really good sense of who I am just naturally as a
Okay.
person. So there's some free resources there that kind of tie into that I found really helpful, and I think other people might find helpful as well. And um, yeah,
Okay.
I'm all over the place. So again, the consistency,
Gotcha.
so um, it's not always easy, but I want to make it as easy as possible for everyone else to connect with me wherever they might be.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, hey, Suhaiba, I appreciate you taking the time. I would love to do this again. I think just, we got more to share. Just wanted to kind of condense it right now for other people, but yeah, definitely I look forward to, maintaining this relationship and keep it going and explore some more. And yeah, if you ever have any tips or anything like that, I'm all ears. I'm all about just getting constructive feedback from whoever's willing to kind of talk and share, you know. And I appreciate you taking the time right now.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, and I think, like I said, it's definitely important to hear other stories and other journeys. And my goal is to be more, as relatable as possible, hopefully. And my aunt actually survived five brothers. I only had to survive three.
Oh wow!
So,
You
yeah.
see, that's definitely all right. That's a story for
Yes.
later.
So
There
she
you
she
go.
paved the way for me. Yeah, and she was number 5 out of 6 kids. Yeah, and so I was number 3 out of 4 kids. So,
Wow.
yeah, but like I said, all the tougher for it, and definitely have used it to my advantage over the years,
Yeah,
and don't
definitely.
see it as a disadvantage. But
Mhm.
again, the goal for me right now is to encourage and empower as many more women as possible to, like I said, rise and shine
Gotcha.
because we need all the
Yeah.
light we can get right now.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, and I would
Yeah,
completely agree. I would just that's one thing that I'm focusing on, and like you had mentioned, the 2024 goals and stuff like that is
yeah,
one of my goals is just talk to more people. Like it's
yeah.
something just that simple of hear more people's stories, and I appreciate you really sharing a bit of your story today with us. So,
Thank you.
all right, well, I appreciate it, and we'll definitely try setting up a next one. Let hear some more about your aunt's journey as well.
There you go.
So, awesome. Well, thank you, Sahiba. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.